I'll see you in the land of Mordor. Death awaits you at the border. Pass on through the gates of fun, destroy the ring of power and wonder.
Hey Middle-earth role-playing fans, Roman Daisel here, taking you back to the lands of Middle-earth. Today we're going to be looking at the Tower of Cirith Ungol in Shelob's Lair. This is 8030 or 8030 of the series. This book was made in 1984. It's a first edition. I bought this back in the 1990s, early 1990s. I found it and I played it with a group of friends. This module was used when I bought it, so it has seen better days. The cover is ripped, unfortunately. But I wouldn't throw it out for all the money in the world because this is hard to find nowadays. The cover art's pretty cool, by Chris White. It's got Shelob chasing a Dunedain warrior, I guess would be the better word for it. And you can see the Tower of Cirith Ungol in the backdrop. So when you flip this over, on the inside you get a map. And this map connects really well to the Sea Lords of Gondor map. And it goes all the way up to the Rhoris, which no other map really does, except for the inside map of Daggerlad and the Dead Marshes. And it shows more of them around. So I've used this map to connect. Since we're here, we'll do the back map instead of going through. The back map is really interesting because it gives you the layout, the area, Minas Ithil, tucked away into a section of the Ifil Duath, or Mountains of Shadow. You see that stair that Frodo, Gollum, and Sam took. Straight stair and the winding stair. It has the regular pass into Cirith Ungol, and then on the other side you have the Tower, Shelob's Lair, and the Morgue before you go into Gorgoroth. Alright, so we'll take the two covers off because I don't want to rip them any more than they are. So you got your table of contents, you got your guidelines, MERPs. Even in these adventure modules, they stay with pretty much the same kind of theme. They go with the introduction and background, the physical geography, the climate, roads and passes, plants and animals, so you have vegetation and animal life. And then it talks about giant spiders. Now, Tolkien never mentions that there's more than one giant spider in the entire area. Shelob would be the one. And she probably would have driven out all her offspring, like eaten them, her monstrous offspring, and forced them back to Mirkwood. Shelob is the last child of Ungoliant, who was a Maiar who took a spider form and cloaked herself in shadows. So she is the only one in that region because she would brook no rival. And food is not all that plentiful in that area. Next it goes into the power of politics. It talks about how Cirith Ungol was during Sauron's rule before the War of the Last Alliance. What happened during the War of the Last Alliance and how the fortress of Cirith Ungol was built by the Gondorians as a means of keeping evil out of Mordor. Which was noble, but in the end it was futile. It was a garrison over Mordor to keep an eye on things because it was still orc infested over time. And the watch failed. So Gondor held these fortresses right up through the Kinstrife and until the Great Plague. After the Great Plague, they started shutting down these fortresses as they could no longer maintain them. The Kinstrife had done incalculable damage to the garrisons of these forts like Cirith Ungol, and Gondor no longer had the manpower to man them all. So this book goes with 1640 time period. The fortresses are still manned, but not as well as they should have. It goes in the Kingdom of Gondor and the Free Peoples. So the military forces, Minas Ithil is the principal fortress of the region and harbors a royal garrison 12,000 strong, 1,200 strong. And a full muster of the province can raise as many as 8,000 troops. But this is barely 2/3 of the province's strength before the plague. And most of Ithilion's troops are not trained veterans, as Ithilien has been a peaceful heart of the kingdom since the fall of Sauron. By the War of the Ring, Gondor has relinquished its position but not its claim to Ithilien, and is now a desolate border state. Nobody lives in Ithilien, but Gondor maintains a small military presence. So it goes into the organization, the equipment, tactics, and such of. Then it goes into Shelob. Shelob was never eradicated during the War of the Last Alliance. Probably a mistake on the part of the Last Alliance, but she probably also hid from the elves. It would be at a time where she hid herself in deep caves so as to escape detection. And then it talks about her story. And of course, Shelob's spell list, detection, mastery, surface ways, all healing list on self only, nature's guises, path mastery, all that stuff, depending on what you're using. Demon Great Spider, huge, fast, 500 hits. Armor is like plate, rigid leather. It's like plate on the body, rigid leather on the legs, and no armor on the eyes. Attacks, it's got huge pincers, plus 120. Poison injected if critical hit. So attack level 50, kills instantly or paralyzes. So it's a spider. And it gives some other oversights. Next, it goes in the physical overview, the overland travel through the pass and the stairs. The Tower of Cirith Ungol. And it's on a sheer eastward cliffs of the Duath and the Morkay Ridge. Then it goes Shelob's Lair, so the Tower of Ungol. And then a brief overview of Middleearth, the garrison of the tower and the military structure. And a tale of prices. So you're going to start at Middleearth, obviously. It would be your starting point, and you go up to the Cirith Ungol. So then it gives an overview of the garrison of the tower. But because after the Great Plague, the tower's garrison is probably halved. It's no longer fully staffed with a full company. You only have 92 men, 6 officers, 6 medium cavalry, Otari, and 80 infantry men-at-arms. So it is understaffed right now at this point. But you could always play a scenario where it's fully garrisoned and resisting orc attacks, which would be kind of neat. Would be really cool. So then it goes into the prominent NPCs. You got Viantor, Captain of the Tower, Balor, the Armor of the Tower, Athugavi, the Lieutenant of the Tower. You got some half-elven Mage of the Tower, and then a Physician of the Tower. So it gives you that kind of overview of NPCs you're likely to find. You're not likely to find half-elven. Mert puts a lot of half-elven characters in their games, but in reality, how many were there? In reality, not many. It gives all their backstories. Then it goes into the orc tribes of the region. The Ungol, Orcs of the Iron Skull. There's about 900 of them wandering around, of which 420 are adult male warriors. Then you got the Gashfur, Orcs of the Fiery Star. 600 orcs, including 280 adult males. I think the number of orcs is kind of high for the time period, maybe. Or the garrison is just too weak. Because that number of orcs could easily surround and decimate Cirith Ungol itself. Individuals of the orc tribe, so it gives the chieftain of the Ungol, the troll chief, who's like Krob the Demon, the troll chief of the Gafshur. Ice did that too. They made trolls as chiefs, which trolls are kind of dumb and would not necessarily be leading a tribe. Huramur, the Dark One, who is the Sauron's, they call it nuncio, like a papal nuncio, I guess, in northwestern Mordor. So he's there to gather information on the strength of Dunedain and to encourage Orcish tribes to unite. Section 6 is suggested adventures, but they also go into a detailed description of the Tower of Cirith Ungol. It has a triangular appearance. It gives you level 1, level 2, and level 3 of the first tier, and a description of all the what each room does. Then it goes into the second tier, does the same thing. In the middle of this book, they put a catalog, which is kind of nice to see. You could have got Brienne the Barrow Downs for like $6 US. Back then would have been $8 Canadian. Middleearth Roleplaying, the box edition was only $12 American. So say 16 Canadian. Pretty cheap back then. I wasn't working back then, only on a paper route, so I wouldn't have that much money. Angmar, the Court of Ardor, Umbar. Then it gives you the board games. I don't have the board game, The Fellowship of the Ring. I should go get these. The old board games. Then it has the Roll Master series. I have a couple of those books. I never got into that. As well as the Lore Master series. We did have the World of Vogmer. I don't know what happened to it. And then you have your price listing. Then it goes back into our regular programming with the second tier. Mostly barracks, halls, and officers' chambers. You got your level 7, level 8. So the third tier, the rooftop. Again, you're going to have the chambers of the captain, barracks, halls, lesser kitchens, bed chambers, dining chamber, the wardrobe, a chapel, guard room, and a rooftop. Level 9 is a turret. Level 10 has a storeroom and a treasury, and then level 11 is a high chamber, which is probably the one that Frodo was kept in. So you get movement and encounters in the tower itself. So you roll 2 10-sided dice and decide find out what you get. Roll a 1 to 40 gets you nothing. So you wander around. Technically, you could wander around and not meet a single soul for the entire thing. Then it gives you the NPC stats. And then it starts the adventures. You get a bounty hunt from the so you're going after the orcs and their orc holds. So this is not something you send a small group of guys in. You would need a full company of soldiers to go after orc holds. They're saying made up of 1st to 4th level adventurers should be sufficient. 5 or 6. And you're looking for a guy named Nazog. So you're going through an orc hold. Not a smart idea. But it gives you the upper caves of the Crab Burzum where they hide. And then the lower caves. And description of everything what's in a cave. And then the orc tribes of the Morgai, they give you the... So Nazrog himself is a Uruk-hai Variag thief. Unlikely, but that's what the Nazrog is. So it gives you the Tower of the Lugjar. And again, lower caves of the Lushgar. So the 2 main orc tribes. So you can get in the Imp Nursery, the Slave Pits, Mine Shafts, Healer's Cave, Shaman's Cave, whatnot. Again, you have movements and encounters, and how many you're going to encounter. Rescue from the Tower is another adventure. Tried this, but we upped it up to make it more of you're trying to rescue the survivors from the tower. But this one, you are actually a neutral or evil adventurer, so you try and rescue Huramur, who has been captured by the Dunedain soldiers. So they want a mid-level party of 2nd to 7th level people of neutral or evil adventurers. So that's different. That's not something you usually see, or that you don't have a lot of chances to be the evil adventurer in these things. So you gotta rescue or slay him, kill him. I did it the other way around, where I sent the guys to help the garrison break out of Cirith Ungol before the orcs completely surrounded and overwhelmed them. So I had like 6 guys go in. They were high level though. Assault on Shelob's Lair. Tried this one with high level when they got to a level 7 or 8. Didn't work. Shelob was really, really good. And it has the movement and encounter. So what do you roll and it's what you find. And it has Shelob stats in the background. Then you have the layouts for the Shelob's Lair from one end to the other. Again, a lair plan telling you what's there, what's buried there. So you can find treasure because she doesn't collect treasure. She leaves it lying around. Then you have the Tower of Cirith Ungol at other times. Something you can find is the Ring of Axardal. So they have an adventure here for the Ring of Axardal, which is a heirloom of a Dunedain who's asking you to go get it. So that's not a really good adventure. I wouldn't do that. Suicidal. The Tower after the fall of Sauron in the 4th Age adventure. Now that would be something because the tower would be desolate. Shelob is wounded. The orcs are 80 to 90% of the orcs in Mordor are destroyed from the war and the cataclysm. Whether the tower survived the cataclysm is another thing, but you can say it did not and see what's inside. Though the orcs have probably ransacked it, but it'd be good to you could always reclaim the tower. So it does give you some so it gives you the tower garrison under the control of Sauron and some of the NDP and some of the characters like Shagrat and Gorbag. That gives you the potent items that you can find. A spider cleaver is one of them. Just stuff yeah, right, okay. None of this stuff would still be in there. Yeah, poisons and rotten things, enchanted or potent substances. And then finally you get a nice cool picture of the actual tower, what it looks like from the road. So you can see the outer courtyard, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd tiers, and then the tower. So it's tucked away into the mountains. This would be the Cirith Ungol Pass, the Shelob's Lair, and this is the Cirith Ithil Road. So if you photocopy these maps, you could run a military campaign and where to place your forces to try and besiege the tower itself. So that is Shelob's Lair in a nutshell. Like I said, I have played this with some friends. We sent people after Shelob. We sent people to Cirith Ungol. They barely get out with their lives intact because it is a hard scenario, but it is an interesting region. And this was actually a very good book. Not as I put it on par with Bree and the Barrow Downs. It was excellently written, well done. The adventures are harder than the Barrow Downs because in the Barrow Downs you don't have a demon spirit like Shelob. Barrow Wights are bad, but Shelob's even worse. And then of course you're in, depending what time period you use, you have to worry about Sauron's influence in all the orcs. As opposed to the Barrow Downs, there's not really that much interference. You could take your time and do it. So all you Lord of the Rings fans out there who played Middle-earth role-playing, give your thoughts, whether if you had the book, and if you were able to play it, or anyone have it in their collection. It's an excellent book. And leave comments in the comment section, hit the like button, hit the bell for notifications, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Until next time, this is Roman Day Slime out of here.
Shadows increasing, beast throughout the land, they see evil.